Good afternoon. I'm Dennis Galucki. Welcome to the 566th Imagine Buffalo program and our, let's see, well, we're over 600, we're over 500 of these programs that are YouTube productions, all hosted by our wonderful Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. Now, we're glad you joined us today. This program is created by the Center for the Study of Art, Architecture, History, and Nature, and ImagineLifelongLearning.com. Before we get started, just a little housekeeping. Everyone watching will be muted and your video turned off. If you have a question or a comment, please type it into the chat box and we'll go through them at the end of the presentation as time allows. Now, we are recording this program so you can watch it again later on the Downtown Central Library's Facebook page and YouTube channels. And please, we hope you share the link with others. Now, on to our featured speakers. Joining us today as part of our Black History Month are Tiffany Gaines and Herbert Bellamy Jr. Now, Tiffany is a curator, writer, photographer, and multimedia creator. She is interested in highlighting her community's diverse arts and artists. Her curatorial interests are grounded in uncovering cultural histories that inspire agency, promote accessibility, and energize an appreciation of the power of art. Tiffany serves as the Associate Curator at the Burchfield Penney Art Center. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Journalism from SUNY Buffalo State and a Master of Arts in Visual Studies from the University at Buffalo. Now, our second speaker is Herbert Bellamy. Herbert Bellamy Jr. is a lifelong resident of the city of Buffalo. He currently serves as the CEO of Bellamy Enterprises and Buffalo Black Achievers, Inc. Herb began his entrepreneurial personal and civic development as a young man in several of the family businesses. He later evolved into a successful insurance broker and financial planner for over 20 years. Herb proudly serves as an active board member with organizations including, but not limited to, Buffalo Black Achievers, the Buffalo Transportation Pierce Arrow Museum, Community Services for Everyone, and the Thurman Thomas Family Foundation. Now, to help welcome both Tiffany Gaines and Herbert Bellamy, we also have Julie Bolia. And Julie is the communications director at the Burchfield Penney Art Center. So, Julie, why don't you take it from there and give us a little context and overview for today's program?
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Julia Norris, and as Dennis mentioned, I'm the Director of Communications at the Burchfield Penney Art Center. And we're just delighted to be here today. And I just wanted to jump on and tell you a little bit about why we were invited to present today. We have been a part of an initiative called Together as One, which was spearheaded by the Buffalo African American Museum, and it's been going on for, this is our third year now, and has involved cultural organizations from across Western New York in a month-long celebration of Black history and Black achievement as it relates especially to Western New York. And this year, we've been extremely delighted to be able to promote an exhibition here at the Burchfield called Wilhelmina Godfrey, I Am What I Am, which was curated by our Associate Curator, Tiffany Gaines, who is about to come on and tell you more about her curatorial practice. And it is truly a passion project for Tiffany. And Wilhelmina Godfrey was somebody whose legacy benefits our creative community to this day. And we're delighted to be participants in Together as One and to share Tiffany's work. So I will turn things over to Tiffany right now.
Thank you so much, Julia. It's truly a pleasure to be here today and to share a little bit about Wilhelmina Godfrey and the exhibition I Am What I Am. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen and just go through a little PowerPoint that I've put together. Okay. Okay. Oops. Can everybody see my screen? Wilhelmina Godfrey?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so this exhibition is a retrospective of work by Wilhelmina Godfrey, who, as Julia mentioned, was a such an iconic and widely recognized and celebrated artist here in Buffalo. Wilhelmina was born in Philadelphia, but was raised and lived in Buffalo throughout her life. And throughout her over 50-year career, she worked in painting, printmaking, and weaving, truly embracing a multidisciplinary practice, not just as an artist, but also as a scholar, as an educator, community advocate, and a co-founder of the Langston Hughes Center for the Visual and Performing Arts, which was an inner city arts center that was established downtown in Buffalo at the height of the Black arts and Black power movements in the late 60s and 70s. And my first introduction to Wilhelmina's work was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. We did an exhibition that surveyed the history of painting in Buffalo, which included 100 works by 86 artists that really represented the evolution of the history of painting here in Buffalo and Western New York. And this piece on the left, City Playground, is one of Wilhelmina's premier works and was included in the exhibition, and really resonated with me and was one that really stuck with me from working on that exhibition as a curatorial research assistant into transitioning into a full-time curatorial role here at the Burchfield. And so ever since that exhibition, that piece has really stuck with me and inspired this interest in sharing more about learning more about Wilhelmina's life and legacy, and celebrating the full breadth of her career. Up until this exhibition, her only major retrospective exhibition was at Medaille College in 1990. And so this is her first major museum retrospective that puts the full scope of her legacy and artistic practice in full context. And now central to Wilhelmina's work and really the inspiration behind the title of the exhibition, I Am What I Am, was her desire to be recognized as an artist in her own right and not be compartmentalized or limited in how she identified, not just as an artist, but as a Black woman living on the east side of Buffalo. And throughout the exhibition, you see works that range from 1945 to 1991, and they show the full breadth of her artistic practice. So she worked in, as I mentioned, painting, printmaking, and weaving, moving between all three modes of creation throughout her entire career. She also moved from figurative representation, so paintings that depict, like City Playground, that really highlight her experiences and her what she saw living on the east side of Buffalo and her travels, moving from more figurative representation to abstraction, highlighting her interest in color and form and theory and design, really showcasing that although she was a Black artist and really connected with her cultural heritage, and pulled African motifs into her weaving works, she also didn't want to be limited or compartmentalized in needing to define her identity or her Blackness in one particular way. Instead, she wanted to be recognized and really explore the full nuance of her artistic interests and her cultural identity. So in 1958, Wilhelmina became inspired to explore weaving as a practice, and would continue to work on fiber works and weavings throughout her career. But many of her weavings were inspired by her interest in her African cultural identity. So several of them, such as the piece on the left, Face Fetish, really pull influence from ceremonial masks and regala and traditions that she explored and researched in traditional African cultural tradition. and also looking at how in traditional African cultures, craft art not only served as an aesthetic sort of practice and something to be viewed at for its formal and aesthetic qualities, but also served a form of functionality, right? And really being utilized as part of the everyday experience, craft art having both functional significance, functional uses. So she created bags and hats and wearable sort of pieces, but also spiritual significance as well. So we see a lot of ceremonial sort of masks and regalia that tie back to this influence. And in addition to her own weaving practice, she wrote a manuscript for a book from these hands, African American craft people of the 60s and 70s, which is in our archive here at the Burchfield, and really served as a way for her to fill some of the gaps that she was seeing on the scholarship being produced about craft art, particularly in the 60s and 70s, and really served to fill a gap in connecting the work of African American craft artists to these cultural African traditions. And so her way of filling that need was to not only make her own craft works, but to write about the work of other craft artists, and also to teach these techniques to different members of the community through her time at the Langston Hughes Center, through teaching at the Michigan Avenue YMCA, and also St. Philip's Episcopal Church, where she was a lifetime parishioner. And so, as I mentioned, she was incredibly involved in the community, but one of her biggest contributions was serving as a co-founder of the Langston Hughes Center for the Visual and Performing Arts, which was established by James Pappas, Allie Anderson, Hal Franklin, Clarence Scott, and Wilhelmina Godfrey. And this was an incredibly formative movement in the late 60s and early 70s, in which Black artists were looking to create spaces to share the work of Black artists nationally and internationally recognized with the community, and to provide classes and spaces for the youth and for all members of the community, really to explore how art can be a vessel for social change and self-discovery. And so the group formalized the center and moved into its location on High Street in 1971, and Wilhelmina helped to establish the Creative Crafts Department. And through the founders and their time there, were able to bring the work of some incredible artists, Afro Cobra, Richard Hunt, Abadias Nascimento, into the Buffalo landscape through exhibitions, but also supporting so many local Black artists, performance artists, visual artists, dancers, really the full spectrum of the arts, really making it an accessible and engaging place for the community to gather. And so the Langston Hughes Center served the community for over 40 years. And though the location is no longer physically present, its legacy and its impact spans generations and continues to live on in the experiences and the memories of so many people today. And so I was so happy to be able to curate an exhibition back in 2021 that explored this early history of the Langston Hughes Center, and then continuing to build on celebrating the artists involved with an exhibition of James Pappas's work that ran at the same time as the Founders Exhibition, and now also celebrating Wilhelmina's incredible legacy. And so the exhibition is on view. These are just some glorious installation shots, courtesy of Hope Grunert. But it has really been incredible to see the ways in which Wilhelmina's life and impact have been celebrated and recognized as folks come to see the exhibition, to see her work. Much of the work that's on view right now hasn't been shown in 30 plus years, and really was only possible to come together through the work and efforts of reaching out to so many different community members who really help make this exhibition possible. And as Julia said, it's been a bit of a passion project for me. It's something that I've been working on for about 4 years, and really feels special to have it all come together, and for Wilhelmina to get the recognition and the institutional acclaim that she has deserved for so long. So I say all that to say that I hope you will come to see Wilhelmina Godfrey, I Am What I Am. It is currently on view through March 30th here at the Burchfield Penney. And if you would like to learn more, please feel free to ask questions or check out our website, burchfieldpenney.org, to learn more about Wilhelmina. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to my co-presenter, Mr. Herbert Bellamy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tiffany. And that was fascinating about Wilhelmina. One of the founders is a dear friend of mine, is James Pappas.
Oh, I love him so much. He's incredible.
When I heard you mention his name, I'm like, wow, that is so amazing. And thank you for preserving that history and bringing it back, because, part of what I do, and I'm the CEO of Black Achievers, is highlight people who wouldn't get recognized. And James Pappas, maybe about 5-6 years ago, I gave him the Legends Award. Mm-hmm. And the Legends Award is to recognize people who are, maybe semi-retired, to recognize all the great things that they have done. And there's so many Black Americans like Wilhelmina and James Pappas, and I have so many great stories that if we don't continue to share our story, it won't be heard. Absolutely. So again, really, that was really nice. It brought back some fond memories. I knew another lady. I can't recall her name, but she kind of came after Wilhelmina, and she was working very hard to make that happen. And art is so important to our culture. And so again, thank you. Yes, my name is Herb Bellamy, and I'm president of Buffalo Black Achievers. And we honor and celebrate Black Americans every year at a gala. And we are in our 53rd year, 53 years of a local organization recognizing Black Americans doing extraordinary things in our community. And we've been blessed and fortunate to continue this. When my father found this organization 53 years ago, and started out with a small group of folks saying they wanted to be recognized. My father was recognized at a testimonial dinner, and he felt that others need to be recognized. So that's why he started the Black Achievers Awards. And we continued on since, and we've been growing every year. Last year, I think, was one of our biggest audience. We had over 1,500 people attending our dinner at the convention center. And now we are expanding our boundaries and going to Niagara Falls and doing our first Niagara Falls Black Achievers on March 15th at the Niagara Falls Convention Center. So our museum that we have, as we work with Together as One, is highlighted of so many Black Americans on digital screens. So we have all the achievers on the digital screen where you can read about them and see their picture and find out all the wonderful things that they've done. We also have a youth academy that we have where we educate children on how to be a Black achiever and to help them, assist them with their career choices in life. We probably have every profession that there is with the Black achievers. So many, whether they're doctors, lawyers, janitors, school teachers. I mean, so many different professions that we can help the children, guide them along their way. We also, in our museum, we have a founder's room with a lot of pictures and awards that my father received. And then our multi-purpose room, we have tons of videos of footage of many years of Black Americans succeeding in Buffalo. So we're a proud member of Together as One. We're happy to always showcase all the talents of Black Americans in Buffalo and Western New York and through the country, because even last year we had some outside the country. So that is what we do and will continue to do. Our October event in Buffalo is generally in October, and it's October 10th this year, October 10th, 2025, where we'll have our gala again at the Buffalo Convention Center. So we continue to showcase Black Americans throughout the year. And that's what we're proud of. And so we continue to do that. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. This has been a fascinating, because I'm not sure too many people are aware of the whole idea of the overview of the program, Together as One. So great way to tell the story today as we finish this month, but also have it archived and build upon the success that you've had. My question, Julie, your sound is off, but if you can get Hazen, if you can make sure that Julie is brought back into the discussion here as I ask a question. Good, there you go.
Hello.
Let me start with the Burchfield Penney, because your whole mission is to do just what we've been hearing about today, being a depository for local artists' work and telling that story of many, many local artists. Roughly, Julie, how many works of art representing how many artists is more the number I'm after? Does the Burchfield Penney really have stories about?
So I don't know the exact number of works in our collection. Maybe Tiffany does, but there are thousands of works.
I would say I think we're over 10,000, maybe close to like 11 or 12,000.
Oh my.
Somewhere
Yeah.
about there. Yeah.
And like many museums, we can only show a tiny fraction of that, maybe 2 or 3% of the works in our collection throughout the year as our exhibitions change over. And as you said, the Burchfield Penney is dedicated to the art and artists of Western New York. We have that regional focus, and it's really important to us that we're showcasing the stories and the artwork that matters to our whole community,
Nice, nice. Well, and that means you've got hundreds, if not thousands, of artists that through the ages have done their work. Like you mentioned, I assume you've got the collection from the Langston Hughes Art Center that physically isn't here anymore, but did they leave it then with the Burchfield? Is that, Tiffany, your understanding?
So the interesting thing about working on that exhibition was that although that space was so incredibly impactful and so meaningful to the community, their archive and the story, especially the story of how the center came to be, had never been sort of preserved in any way. So that exhibition was the first written historical record of how the Langston Hughes Center came to be. And really, the show sort of came together from connecting with Jim Pappas and Clarence Scott, who those two are the only two of the founding artists that are still alive. And Jim was so gracious in sharing so much from his archive to help tell that story. And then Clarence Scott as well. Those black and white photos in the PowerPoint were part of a huge digital collection of archival photos from that time that Clarence Scott was so gracious in sharing with us and allowing us to showcase, to tell that story. And although it's unfortunate that it took that long for that history to really be preserved and told in a meaningful way, I think there's really an incredible value to now, that history and those photos and those archival records are accessible online and are someplace where people can learn and learn more about the artists involved and have something tangible in the digital space to go back to. And Mr. Bellamy, like, I love what you said about the importance of having those digital sort of accessible files and just ways to engage the community because the reach that you're able to make through the internet, through having these digital resources is so expansive that it really allows those stories to get out to so many more people and broader audiences.
Herb, that's a good transition to the question I was going to ask. Herb, is it Together as One that's being promoted as the holder of many items, or is it your organization that helped create Together as One? And is there a digital connection website or something like that where folks can go and get the details of your upcoming October event, for instance, in Niagara Falls?
Okay. Together as One was not started by me. I'm a partner with Together as One.
Okay,
And they have a website, and I believe I was looking at a poster. I'm in my father's founders room, but they have a website. My website, I have two websites. One is buffaloblackAchievers.org, buffaloblackAchievers.org, and also I have a website, NiagaraFallsBlackAchievers.org. So my website has a lot of different content and updates on all the information that's coming up as well.
well, 1,500 people coming to an event is worthy of note in Western New York. So hats off to you, and I'm sure it's been building over the years. Hazen, how are we doing for questions from the audience?
We've got a couple.
Good.
All right, so let's start here. Barbara asks, this is directed to Tiffany. Barbara says, thank you, Tiffany and the staff of the Burchfield for highlighting the work of regional artists and continually extending the definition of the arts. I'm a bit of an archivist, so I have to ask, in addition to displaying these works, do we have adequate storage facilities here in Western New York for their preservation and future access to them? And if not, how can the larger community help?
Oh my God, that's such a great question. Wow, thank you for that, Barbara. Well, I think the important thing is that, there's always only so much space, right? And the hope is really to build an archival collection that really showcases the diverse stories and people and communities that have made an impact here, right? And so, at the Burchfield, of course, our focus is on building archives around artists with connections to the region, whether we have them in our collection or not, whether they're in an exhibition or not. I think having a sort of repository space for those archival materials is so helpful in, I think a lot about the curator 50 years down the line that's going to look for those materials to be able to tell those stories in a new way. And so I think there's always room for more space to make sure that more stories are preserved. But one thing I will say is that in working on the Founders Exhibition, especially, the archival collections at the public library were so incredibly helpful in building that story. I took many trips down to the Central Library, to the Grosvenor Room, to the special collections over there, and found so much in the way of like historic newspaper clippings and articles that talked about, all the amazing things that the founding artists were doing at the time. And those are things that, maybe we didn't necessarily have an awareness of before, but have been able to kind of fold those into the archival material that we have here on each of those artists. So archives are so incredibly important. They can be overwhelming, but they're so incredibly formative to telling those stories.
Fantastic. Let's see, we have a couple more questions. Let's see, someone you may know who's here today, Miss Ellen H. Harvey. Wonder who that
Hi,
is.
Miss Ellen.
Hi, Miss Ellen.
She writes, thank you so much for your presentations today and sharing the gifts of African American arts, culture, and their achievements with us today, and dedicates that to Tiffany, Herbert, and Julia. FYI, I give honor to James Pappas, who is also a board trustee and advisor to the Buffalo African American Museum. Thanks to Dennis and to the library for hosting the show today. So just some lovely feedback.
Nice.
And I have one more question directed to Tiffany. And that is, in your curatorial work on Wilhelmina Godfrey, I Am What I Am, did you encounter anything that surprised you?
Oh, anything that surprised me. I think the thing that surprised me, well, first of all, I was working with a lot of like written archival materials. So I had come across this video from her exhibition at Madai in 1990. And that was the first sort of visual sort of video of her that I was able to see and hear her voice. So it was very surprising to hear her voice for the first time after like thinking or imagining what she must have like sound like or been like. And she had a very deep, raspy voice, which I did not expect at all. So that was certainly surprising. But I think the other thing that surprised me the most was how quiet and mild-mannered she was. So, as I said, it was a very limited sort of scope of archival material that I had to work with to kind of learn about her. But as things started to emerge and I started to connect with more people that knew her, the thing that everyone kind of said about her was that she just, was very quiet, very understated. She didn't necessarily brag about, herself or her artistic accomplishments very much. And so everyone around her sort of kind of had to be that cheerleader, to kind of celebrate her. But she just kind of wanted the work to sort of speak for herself and didn't, sort of brag about herself too much. And that was something that certainly surprised me because you never know. But I think it does make a lot of sense, just in what I've read and learned about her. That definitely tracked. So I think that was very interesting just to learn more about who she was, not just as an artist, but just as a person.
Very cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hazen, that's it as far as questions, I assume?
Yep, that's it today.
Well, this has been a month-long journey here, put together by invitations from the library and again, hosted by them and now archived on the library's YouTube channel. So use that throughout the year. As you can see, this is the Center for the Study of Art, Architecture, History, and Nature. And part of the reason I do this is because to point to the incredible treasures that we have in our area. And when you talk about art and architecture, because when you look at both the Burchfield and the Buffalo AKG Art Museum across the street, these are wonderful works of architecture that are gifts to the community. And to point to that fact, that how important place-based lifelong learning happens in all of our cultural institutions, really supported too by many, many volunteers that help make the system go. That was the goal of this program, is to point to those, bring them on one platform, connect them back with the central library. And this has been a great month and a great finale here for the month with this particular program. So thanks again to all of you, Julia, for joining on, giving us an overview of the Burchfield Penney Art Center, and Tiffany. And Herbert, thanks for the update. Good things happening here in Buffalo, and that's worth noting. So thank you, folks, for joining us. Hope you can come back next week. We're going to have a most interesting organization on the West Side. Dawn Hogue will be, who is the founder and executive director of Stitch Buffalo. You're going to hear about this organization and the work that it's doing in really helping us reimagine the art of stitching and creation and much more, engaging many, many people here on the west side of Buffalo. So join us next week for that. And in the meantime, I'm Dennis Galucki. Be well and good day.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.